Hi, I'm your Gemini friend. This video is going to be about Lilith in Leo, or Lilith in the 5th house. And when it comes to whether it's in the sign of the house, consider the sign Leo to be the way, like the personality that Lilith is expressing itself. The house will be the area of life in which this is most relevant for you. The 5th house being creativity, self-expression, having fun being yourself. I'll go more deeply into all of this. Lilith represents an area of pain, shame, rejection. It's like our shadow, a part of us that we are rejecting because we were taught early on maybe this is an unacceptable part of us. It's something that we have internalized and reject within ourselves and experience issues with this energy. And it's all for the purpose of empowerment, reclaiming it, and fully integrating this energy into ourselves. But it is a deeply sore spot. And when this is happening in Leo, there's a fierceness behind it. Whether it's expressed in one extreme or the other, it's felt very personally. I do have a video in the description that goes more over Lilith and how I understand her energy. And also in the description, I'll have a link to my shop where I read natal charts and synastry charts if you're interested in that. But getting into this, Lilith in Leo, or the 5th house, indicates some pretty severe issues with your self-confidence, your self-value, and your relationship with getting attention, being special, being seen. There can be a really strong push and pull, like desperately wanting this attention, but also feeling like maybe you don't deserve it. Maybe you also at the same time hate it. Hate having like a spotlight on you, eyes on you, because you hate to feel perceived. But at the same time, who wants to be ignored? This can occur because of, say, like early on in life, if you had parents that only validated you when you were achieving something, or maybe you had to perform in a certain way in order to get the attention or love that you deserved, and your circumstances didn't nourish this. This can come from being raised in the sort of like children should be seen, not heard mentality, feeling like it's shameful to seek attention or to get any sort of validation for who you are as a person. We all need validation. We all need to feel like we're here for a reason, like we have a purpose, and like who we are is important. Because it's true. Every single one of us has such an individual makeup that is absolutely necessary in its purest form. We have so much conditioning going on as we're growing up, society, the ideals of authority figures, and Leo energy and the 5th house has so much to do with children. The 5th house in particular, this represents the children that we have, our relationship with them and our relationship with our own inner child, and our comfortability with like being in that childlike energy, being in our creative, imaginative, kind of unfiltered selves. So Lilith in Leo, or the 5th house, can indicate issues regarding something having to do with children, childhood, your own inner child. There can be wounds that need to be dealt with here. It's always important to look at what you're avoiding looking at with Lilith, because it does represent the shadow in a way where internalized other people's ideas of how we should be or how we should not be. So there can be a lot of like ego issues here. Lilith expresses itself in extremes, so this can be an overinflated ego, likely in an overcompensating sort of way. Or you could overcompensate by expressing the more positive qualities of Leo, but in a less than genuine way. Like, say you always want to appear as somebody who's having a great time, somebody who is warm and generous and friendly and outgoing. Nobody should be forced to have that on at all times. But if you feel like you're not allowed to express anything less than just your very best, that can be an issue. You deserve to not have to be performing at 100% all the time, or feeling like you need to be there for other people because you could want to give people the attention that you didn't give. and make them feel special in the way that you did not receive. Total opposite end, regarding ego issues, it can be like a complete lack of self-validating, of feeling like your ideas, your creations, whatever it is that you're wanting to put into the world are good or going to be accepted. There could be a lot of fear regarding creativity here. And creativity is so many things. It's every way that we can express ourselves and who we are. This can be through art, drama, singing, writing, cooking. It can be anything that feels like it lights you up, like it's coming from your heart. And like it's something that you were meant to do in a way, something that feels like a core value that you've always had, that you've always had an interest in, maybe something that was suppressed early on, something you'd like to explore more. It can be like feeling like you're just not allowed to do that, like it's not worth it to assert yourself in any way, or like you're being a burden just by existing. But this can be a really painful placement. And I mean, thinking of Leo's energy, it loves to be seen. It loves to be in the center of attention. It's the sun. It's like a natural spotlight, radiating warmth and light. It cannot hide. So hiding Leo placements are suffering in some way. And insecurity like this can express itself in a lot of different ways. This could be like extreme shyness or not ever wanting to share what it is that you've made, anything that you're proud of, having a hard time being proud of yourself or acknowledging your achievements. Or it can be like extreme extroversion, hating being alone, needing constant stimulation from other people. It's like validation, like, okay, I am allowed to exist. I am seen. People do want to be around me. So it's important to be comfortable with yourself when you are alone, whether you prefer to be alone or prefer to never be alone. When you are alone, I mean, you're the only person who's always going to be there for yourself, so you need to be somebody that you'd want to be around. Consider your inner voice and what it says to you. If it's not encouraging, if it's mean, if it's like the voice of some cruel authority figures from early on, check your inner voice and make sure that it is affirming you. Make sure that it's saying things that make you feel better, because I know that it can seem like we have absolutely no control over this, but you do. It's important to have discipline in your mind and to learn to filter through the things and get rid of the ones that aren't coming from you. Because why would you be having thoughts that put you down coming from you? It's not natural. It goes against like basic survival, but it's also such a human thing to have a really harsh inner critic. It's just that in recognizing like where this voice originated, where its opinions started, how it affects you, you can always say no. If you do allow yourself to just spend some time in like quiet solitude, you will find the voice comes up. And it can be easier to sort through, like, okay, I do not like this thought. I don't like this recurring cycle that happens in my mind when this thing's, like our minds can give us so many like shoulds. Like, you should do this, you need to do this or else. Like all of these, we're practically threatening ourselves all the time with this critique and this constant desire to like be better, to improve. It's very un-Leo. We need to come from a place of unshakable self-confidence where no matter what we do and no matter how we're received, we know that our intentions are good and we know that we ourselves are good. Obviously, you do want to make sure that your intentions are good in the first place, but I would imagine anyone wanting to improve themselves, especially coming from this place of self-rejection on some level, you just want to know and feel that you are good and that what you have to offer and put out into the world is also good and wanted. So you have to accept yourself and what you're putting out first. exposure can be helpful with this. Like if you are an artist, for example, and you hate showing your art, maybe you were really harshly critiqued early on, or maybe you were taught that art is not a valid, not a respectable enough thing to focus on. Like you're wasting your time. All of these things are completely false, and they're likely not true to you. It's not coming from your inner voice. I think it's really important to examine, like, what's really true to you. Keeping with the art example, this can apply for so many different things, but like, say throughout your life, whenever you do make art, you've always really liked to use this one particular technique. You've always really enjoyed focusing on this aspect of the painting. Take those things that you have always liked, that have stayed true to you, and really appreciate them. Like, appreciate that this is something that is special to you, something that you can introduce into the world, that is coming from a place of like personal passion. I hope this makes sense and is applicable to other contexts, but I just mean, like, find that specialness about you and value it. Affirm it, feed into it. If there's anything that means a lot to you and you feel shame when you do it anyway. Share it even. Find safe people to share these little bits of yourself with, and you'll find that the more you expose yourself to this idea, the easier it does become. Because once you put yourself out there, once you push past that initial barrier, you will find that it's much more fun to just express yourself than to have to worry about it. And the more confident you are in what you're putting out, the less criticism even matters. The more you can recognize, like, okay, maybe it's not for everybody, but this is what I like. This is who I am. And nobody can say no to that. You're telling them who you are. That's enough. The affirmation that you get from yourself, from within, for actually doing this, for standing up for yourself, for taking that risk, it's so valuable. Mentioning risks, though, I mean, this placement can come with like risky behavior, enjoying risk, very fifth house, the fun aspect without considering the consequences. I mean, Virgo comes after Leo for a reason, but ultimately, it's just really important to follow your heart in all circumstances. Your heart is going to tell you how you feel about things, which leads you in the right direction. I mean, this placement can come with circumstances where you kind of have to fight for yourself, where maybe you're given much less power than you deserve and you have to fight for it. You could be oppressed by your circumstances, feeling like you're unable to express yourself. These things push you to do the right thing, which is to stand up for yourself. But of course, this can also the opposite way, like excessive assertion, feeling like you need to be the one in power in order to be thriving. Because a big Lilith thing and then also Leo thing can be an imbalance in masculine, feminine, in the masculine and feminine energies within us. This can be an extreme push towards the masculine, which can be so excessively achievement-based, status-based, even just wanting to seem like a very confident provider type energy, wanting to be seen as someone who can stand on their own, to the point of being like domineering, controlling. Overall, it's like a lack of that child, like the fun, looking for not just your individual expression of what is fun to you, but also recognizing in everybody else that inner child. I mean, that helps with so many circumstances. Like if we're dealing with difficult people, imagining them as a child, it at least makes me more compassionate towards a person. And it's really ideal to me, like the idea of seeing everyone as being like their child selves, not in the immature way, but like being who we were born as. before anyone told us that we couldn't be that, embracing and accepting that within yourself and in other people, because that is where Leo is at its best, is when it's being itself, truly shining, and then generously offering the spotlight to other people as well, like shining that light on their creativity, their natural self-expression, who they are genuinely. When you are yourself, and this placement indicates that you can really shine in this way that helps other people, and just reclaiming that can be so powerful. But it frees up other people to also be themselves. It's like taking that initial risk of putting yourself out there. It allows other people to see, like, okay, they did it, I can do it too. And then we're all so much more genuine with each other. We're like all being our authentic selves rather than acting like we think we should be. It's very important to get a healthy balance with this energy, because it can just disrupt so much internally and externally. It's a really powerful energy. It's Leo, it's the sun, it's the heart. So when we're all coming from our hearts at each other, then we're having more of like a heart-based connection where we're seeing each other for who we are and representing ourselves for who we are, representing ourselves as who we are. And this energy can also have a lot of fun with drama, gossip. I mean, that like all attention is good attention, that could be an issue with this. When it comes to whether you want to be seen desperately or you desperately do not want to be seen. And I feel like both can be true so easily. But just make sure that you are not acting out of like what will get me seen, what will get me attention, rather than what will validate my existence. I mean, consider that you've always deserved to be seen for who you truly are, like who you actually are, not any more dramatic version or the more idealized version. Who you really are, that's perfectly enough. And that's exactly who you're meant to be. And it's exactly who you should show up as. Of course, we all get confused about like who we really are, what's true to us, who am I? Leo is here to help us find out and to have a healthy sense of pride in that. Nobody's supposed to be the same. So embracing our uniqueness is a huge part of this. And as I always like to look at the opposite signs, I mean, what's opposite Leo is Aquarius, which is the most eccentric sign that prioritizes uniqueness. So leaning more into that, like rather than the idea of Leo, like, how can I make sure that I'm accepted? Aquarius is like, how do I stand out? What makes me different? Leo naturally stands out, but it tends to favor the more like societally acceptable, more in its unhealthy energy. But it's an interesting balance between these two. I mean, in a way, Leo is what you do for yourself, while Aquarius is what you do for others or the group. But in all areas, it's important to have a healthy balance. The way that I see this, it's like making sure that what you're doing is purposeful for you, makes you feel appropriately important. But then we balance that with like, what is this doing on a larger scale? How am I helping other people feel special? That sort of thing. And consider the self-destructive nature of Lilith. In the 5th house especially, I mean, this deals with like things that should be fun, like casual dating, where we're getting to know each other, letting them know who we are. Parties, like fun social things. This can be self-destructive. This can be being attracted to people or situations that are not good for us, that are too risky, or that affirm our lack of worth even. I mean, this energy, Lilith and Leo, can be extremely seductive, like incredibly natural at drawing people in, but it needs to be coming from a place of like actual enjoyment rather than just seeking that, seeking the attention, seeking people who will affirm us from how we appear, how we're received. It's just important that it's authentic and genuine and not coming from a place of insecurity or seeking something outside of ourselves, that we need to be giving ourselves first. Like I said, this can be so tough because it can really indicate like shame just in existing, just in like, I am alive, but for what? It's up to you to find that. It's up to you to express who you really are, get to know yourself, and back yourself up. Be the one who affirms that. Be the one who is proud of yourself. And give those parts of you that are hard to look at or hard to accept the attention that they deserve and that they've always wanted. This can be a big one for having to parent your own inner child. But you know you better than your parents ever could have. And you can always go back to those moments where you felt the most unseen, the most hurt. You can connect with that version of you and then give them what they needed in that moment as a parent. It's a really helpful exercise I've found. And of course, your Lilith, how prominent it is in your chart, how much of an effect it has overall, that's going to depend based on your chart. So this will be stronger or weaker, more or less apparent in your personality, depending on your specific combination of energies. So if you have this placement, please express yourself genuinely. Be who you are. We need to see those parts of you. It's essential. You're meant to be reclaiming these parts. So if you have this placement, please reclaim these parts of you, share them. Embrace them, accept them, love them. There is no need to continue a trend of rejection. Just because it was placed on you at one point, you can always escape from that. You can change the narrative and have your inner voice be incredibly affirmative. Someone who's always there for you. So, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think. I love you. Bye.